Hello everybody, welcome to the fourth round of the 2025 ARC Formula 1 World Championship. We are here at the Marina Bay Circuit for the Singapore Grand Prix, and we are very excited to be bringing you a full grid for round 4. It's incredibly exciting to see that happening in this race already. As we've got a whole bunch of new faces in this one. Tons and tons of new faces in this one. I'm going to briefly go down through the list here in one moment, as we ride along with Ryan Messer, who's just finished up his lap at 127.995. You'll see from our list here that Cameron Lopez and George Knight make up the two Mercedes, as they have in the last however many races in this season. Minus the one that George Knight missed. There was word briefly before this race started that Cameron Lopez may not be starting, but at the last minute he pulled it out, and he is back in this thing, which is an important turn of events for our points leader, Cameron Lopez, who currently holds a 9-point lead over both the Sauber of Maxime Van Averbeek and George Knight, his teammate, both of which are tied on 43 points for second. Speaking of that Sauber group, Nuclear Fusion Racing, they picked up their second win last week at the hands of Maxime Van Averbeek. He'll be looking for another race win this week to continue whittling that gap down to Cameron Lopez. And importantly, they have a bit of a stability, a bit of a moment of stability here going into the fourth round. This is their third straight race with the same two drivers at Nuclear Fusion Racing, something that I know their team owner is very excited about. Having two drivers who are, constantly there on the team at the same time makes a big difference. I'll dial in the track map so we can get kind of an idea of where things are happening on the track, and pull up the lap data as well here. Yeah, moving on from that, we've got the McLaren team of East Coast Racing. These two McLaren drivers, Jackson Altman, I should say this one McLaren driver, Jackson Altman, is currently fourth in points. He sits on 31, but his teammate sits on 0, and so their whole team together sits on 31. This time around, though, they have Jacob, BRT Jacob. Otherwise, if I can grab my notes here, just one moment. I gotta make sure I have the right names and everything. I wish I just could pull that all up from the sidebar, but we make do with notes here. We've got Jacob Whitby, who raced last in the ARC Formula 1 European Championship. He's back actually now in the World Championship. He's racing. He raced for Team 44 Racing in the European Series, and put up some very good results, very good results, and now he's back. He's P2 currently sitting, and this will be a massive moment for him if he can continue to bring points to the McLaren team. I'm getting some weird things happening now with my controller. I'm getting vibrations from those cars coming into the pits. I'm getting word that Cameron Lopez is having a game issue and thus cannot leave the garage currently. Hence my my stuttering there with the McLaren. We think that Cameron Lopez may end up rebooting his game and trying to get back into this thing. He just retired. Hard to say where this goes. He might have to start from the back in this one if things go as they are. It's hard to say if this is a bug that will affect more than one person, or if this is something that could turn into a wider lobby issue, which I'm sure Cameron Lopez would be pulling for, because it would mean a lobby reset. Anyway, moving on from the McLaren drivers, Oliver James, or moving, I guess, back to the McLaren drivers, Oliver James was the driver who got disqualified after the Australian Grand Prix, and then has not been racing since then. His replacement, obviously, Jacob Whitby, as mentioned before. So we will move down the order into the Ferrari seat now. Ferrari is a bit of an interesting one. At the start of the season, we had Xander Wiles, who picked up a P2 finish and 18 points. with his incredible P2 finish at Australia. Unfortunately, he had some words after the race for his competitor Cameron Lopez and Jamie Cavagnini, among others, behind him. Josh Mayo. With that said, he seems to have taken a break and kind of removed himself mentally from that. He didn't show up for the last 2 races, and he's back here at full pelt trying to prove people wrong, which is always a good recipe to put on a really strong performance. And I think this will be a great opportunity for him to finally get that first win that he's been craving now for just about a full season. In the other, we have a McLaren in the wall there, that being Jackson Altman, I believe. Yeah, that was Jackson Altman. He's just on an outlap, luckily, so that shouldn't affect him too much. He may end up coming in to replace some wing, but if it's not too damaged, and it doesn't look to be, he can continue going. Anyway, yeah, the other Ferrari, that being Aiden McCarthy, he's had a solid start to the season with a points finish at Australia, P5. It brought him 10 massive points at the start of this thing, and he has not had quite as lucky a run since then, with a 17th at China, and no points at Japan due to his game not allowing him to race at Japan. He was unfortunately kicked out of the lobby at Japan before the race even got underway, so he was scored last in 13th. As for this week, though, he is going to be hopefully pushing for another big points finish here. We've got a bigger grid, but also we're at Singapore, where things can happen. The walls are close, and as we all know here, when the walls are this close, then things can get really dicey. Red flags can happen, as we've seen here in the past. Not this specific track, but our last couple races. Australia comes to mind with the 2 red flags back to back. So we see Xander Wiles go to the top of the leaderboard, followed quickly by Maxime Van Averbeek. That's a very strong lap. These two are currently well and away on top of the field now. George Knight down in 5th. He'll have more to give. We can ride along with his lap. Looking very poised through that chicane. What I will say is this gives us time, though, before this lap ends, to move on to some other teams. Give you guys the rundown pre-race. V-Carb this week. Not your normal faces of Josh Mayo. Josh Mayo's not here this week. He's been replaced by the other RB you see down there. Pro Ultra 7 is the username. But as we know, the username is not the most important thing. The driver's name is the most important thing. And that's Alexander that's Arvin Whitaker. Arvin Whitaker hails from Canada. He is making his first start in this series. And he will be looking to just kind of make a name for himself in this one. No matter what happens, that I am of the belief that putting a strong and clean performance in is much more important than any amount of points when you're making your first start. So hopefully he can get himself up the order. And with that said, he just crossed the line in 8th with a 27.030. That is pretty solid, within 2/10 of the lead. Within a second and 2/10 of the lead, so not quite 2/10. And yeah, no, it'll be important to see how he makes it here. Moving on from the RB, we've got Jamie Cavagnini in the Aston Martin. He's here once again. He's made every start this year so far. Should mention Caden McDonald is the other RB. He has also made the bulk of the starts this season with a 4-point haul in Australia and a 1-point haul in Japan. He's up to 5 points. He is currently sitting P16 in the standings, the RB. While Jamie Cavagnini in the Aston Martin sits way up in P6 on 22 points. He's got a 6th place in China and a 4th place in Japan. Pretty good start to the season for him, minus the accident in Australia, but due to the race of attrition with 19 starters that saw everybody 9th on back DNF, his 9th place finish still brought him points because it was late enough in the race to give him some points despite not finishing. We'll move on to the Red Bull team. Alan Edmiston, he's back in it. Dylan Boston, he's back in it. Both of these guys currently still sitting in the garage, but Alan Edmiston still yet to score points. Had a run-in last week with one of the Alpine drivers, Santi Ortiz, and is yet to score points off of that this season. Or sorry, that was not last week. That was at China 2 weeks ago. Neither Red Bull showed up last race at China. Was replaced by Billy Targi in the Red Bull, who has not shown up tonight. But yeah, both of these Red Bull drivers are going to be looking for something big this week, I can imagine. All drivers in the pits here as we get ready for our final runs, out laps. I can see people starting to pull out now. Go over our last couple teams that we haven't yet. Alpines, Finn Baker is back in the in one of the Alpines here. I'll toggle to him if I can find him. In 13th, Finn Baker. His finishes this season, a lot to be desired for him. He's got an 11th and a 13th on no points, while Santi Ortiz has brought the team points with a 7th and an 11th. Neither Alpine was at Japan, our lowest field size of the season, but we've recovered this week up to a full P20 field size, and I'm excited to see what happens. In the Haas, we've got Sean Rees, who will now, going forward, be one of the full-time drivers for the Champ Racing Inc. team, and Jonborn 1990, who is our newest Lopez to the field, Alexander Lopez. No relation to Cameron Lopez, who's also in this field. That won't get confusing at all. And the only other driver I think I didn't cover are the two Williams drivers. Got Abdul Rahman Al Hazmi, he's back. Mikey DeJong just didn't make it tonight, a late check-in and some slight issues after our lobby had already filled up getting in due to the fact that he had a reserve driver in, Milan van der Linden, out of the Netherlands, who's currently sitting in P3 for that Racing Predators team. Aside from that, we're going to get right into the action here. We've gone through all the news and all the stories, all the new faces. We're going to take a look at who's where on track as we ride along with our first driver to cross the start-finish line here, I believe, on a hot lap. This is Milan van der Linden out of the Netherlands for the Racing Predators team. Absolutely chucking it into that corner. Driver's up ahead warming their tires. He'll be trying to snip a toe, see if he can manage to get some sort of advantage here. The way that you can just flick the wheel around in these cars and make it stick. Maybe not the most intuitive driving style, but boy, if it's not impressive to watch when you see these esports level drivers absolutely wringing the neck out of the steering wheels of these cars. It's risks that you have to take over curbs, unsettling the rear, right up against the wall as you go over the Marina Bay Bridge there, all the way to the outside. He's going to try his best to stay nice in this apex, not much steering, and then just an absolute flick in across there. Keep the tires just on the inside of that white line, and then it's full pelt all the way to these this right-left chicane. Used to be another chicane there before that. There's a nice little opening in the wall there, leaves you a little bit of runway to push a little harder. It's going to be a long swing into that corner, and he goes to the top. That was an incredible lap from him. We will be riding along next with Maxime van Averbeek out of Belgium. He won last week's race. He's going to be trying to go for yet another pole position this week, but it's looking like it may be an invalidation. It is for Maxime van Averbeek. He's not going to get pole. We can ride along with George Knight, the Chinese Grand Prix winner and last season's champion. He's pushing. And he's pushed too hard. He's hit the wall. Who can bring the fight? We've got Jacob Whitby for East Coast Racing. He'll be pushing. He's simply got to find 0.6 of a second. It's hard to find that much around a track like this, but it's all about how far you're willing to push yourself, how far you're willing to push the car. Can he manage to make a pole position happen today? Xander Wiles to the top of the leaderboard with a 25.675. Watch Jacob Whitby absolutely wringing the neck out of this car through that chicane as he taps the wall. I think he's going to be definitely down. But it's hard to say. Jackson Altman up to 6th in his East Coast Racing McLaren. Maxime Van Averbeek will come across the line. His lap's been invalidated. It's over for him. The closer we get to the end of this thing, there's fewer and fewer people who can challenge Xander Wiles for pole position here. As Jacob Whitby goes up to P4, it's not going to be enough. Xander Wiles still sitting on the top of the hot seat right now. As Williams is not on a push lap. Alan Edmiston, what can he do? He's off the track. This won't be a pole. Ryan Messer into the pits. It's going to be a pole position for Xander Wiles at the Singaporean Grand Prix. What a comeback. He's been gone for 2 weeks. Had his run-ins at Australia. He missed China. He missed Japan. He's back, and he's on pole position. And you know what? That is an impressive way to come away with a pole position at a track like this, as we saw from riding along with the reserve driver in the Williams, Milan van der Linden. You have to absolutely push to make those laps happen at this level. And one thing that we've seen is that he would have had to have pushed very hard to get that lap time. Always a good day to see Xander Wiles come out on top in qualifying, but we've said that a lot with his qualifying. Can he make a race win happen in this one? Only 3 1/100ths of a second between Xander Wiles and Milan van der Linden. We've got Maxime Van Averbeek in 3rd, less than 2/10ths down. Jacob Whitby and George Knight. Then Jackson Altman and Alan Edmiston. Got another reserve driver, this one being, don't have a name on that one, missed that one in time. Another reserve driver in 8th. And now we wait. The calm before the storm. Weather report today, looking pretty solid. It's just overcast. You know, the rains of Singapore, they can come, they can go. They can show up and shower pretty hard, but it's looking like it's going to be a pretty nice overcast race here. I'm not calling this immediately because I thought we were on a reserve lap here. But it seems like we're green off rip here. So we've already got a yellow flag for Aiden McCarthy in the back. He's spun around in the Ferrari. I'm not sure why we didn't have a reserve, a formation lap there, but we've got a battle already down into turn 5. That's Xander Wiles ahead of Maxime Van Averbeek as Milan van der Linden trails in 3rd. He's fallen from 2nd to 3rd. Jacob Whitby up to 4th. Let's take a look at who's made their way. Oh, we have a crash in the back. One of the Red Bulls is spun. That's Alan Edmiston. He needs a good race. This is not the start of a good race for him. That's going to be a wing change. Absolutely. Again, my apologies there for calling the start so poorly. I genuinely thought we would have a formation lap there, and we didn't. Luckily, though, our drivers are not going to find problem with that. They're just going to want to go out and fight as quickly as they possibly can, and I hope nobody was caught out by that. Cameron Lopez from 20th to 13th already. We're watching him absolutely just pick drivers off as fast as he possibly can, and he knows he has to if he wants to maintain that championship lead. Only 9 points between him and the P2 drivers. As we see George Knight tumbling down the order, he's been spun, he's missing an end plate, he's missing 2 end plates. This is a big moment for George Knight, who's the driver that Cameron Lopez had that advantage from. We have to wonder if there was any contact up there. He was in a pack with Jacob Whitby and the reserve driver in the Aston Martin. We have a Ghosted Williams. We've been known to see the Ghosted Williams on occasion from Abdul Rahman Al-Hazmi. Internet sometimes not quite providing the experience that he needs as we take a look at possible race strategies. You're going to see a lot of drivers here on the medium tire just trying to one-stop it onto a hard. But as we know, a safety car could change many a strategy. Anybody on a hard could push long, and if we get a late safety car, gets saved onto a soft. If, you know, we get like less than 7 laps, it's a decision to make for sure. You're going to see the Mercedes of George Knight absolutely limping around the track here with no end plates, barely any downforce. It's going to be a massive downforce loss. As he nicks the wall there, this is a bad start for him. On the flip side, the person with the same amount of points as him in the standings, Maxime Van Averbeek, has made a pass for the lead over Xander Wiles as we watch him just start to stretch his legs and pull away from Xander Wiles here. That gap now up to nearly 0.8 of a second. Xander's going to have to really start to pull that in. I believe Xander is on a medium tire as well as Maxime Van Averbeek, so both of them are going to be on an even running here. Going to be interesting to see if there's some sort of downforce level difference between the two of them in each sector. See what's kind of pulling the strings here in terms of a gap. We may see Milan van der Linden go for a move here on Xander Wiles, or maybe the McLaren in the back, the DRS being too strong for anybody to make a move this time. But I'm interested in this massive line in the mid-pack here. Ryan Messer up to 7th, sitting just beside, or sorry, not just beside, just behind another one of our reserve drivers, that being Arvin Whitaker. He's up to 6th in the RB. We've seen some strong runs from the RB drivers this season. You know, we're 3 laps into this. Going to be interesting to see if Arvin Whitaker can hold on to that and get another big points haul for CL7 Racing. They are always on the lookout, or to be on the lookout for a big points haul when you may not expect it. And so I would expect this to not be much different. Unfortunately for George Knight, he is way down the field this go around. Way down the field. He's behind Alan Edmiston. He's going to make a move on him. Probably right now, if I had to guess. As he does, we just catch that. And I think Alan Edmiston will think better of that one. And he knows George Knight's going to be the quicker driver here, and he will be furious on a recovery drive. We saw last lap Xander Wiles went marginally faster than Maxime Van Averbeek, but that gap stays the same at about 0.7 of a second. Our first penalty of the race in the other RB, CL7 Racing's Caden McDonald in P15 with a 3-second penalty, and Arvin Whitaker in P6 has also picked up a 3-second penalty. They're easy to pick up here. You can get them on the exits of many of the corners, but also the turn-ins are very important here. You can skip over the curbs and pick them up if you misjudge. The full commitment of this course is what causes these incidents, such as this corner here, where you skip across the curb as we ride along with Xander Wiles. This corner, not a corner cut risk, unless you're extremely unlucky to get so far out that it somehow gives you a corner extension, but not a risk. This corner is the big risk we see. Drivers washing out past over that white line, picking up penalties. And then these 2 corners up here, where you can turn in too sharply and pick up a corner cut penalty. These curbs are high, so any miss can cause massive amounts of time loss, as we just saw right there for Xander Wiles, who just dropped 0.4 of a second off of that tiny mistake there. He's out of DRS range. This is going to create a opportunity for both the Williams and the McLaren to get by the Ferrari of Xander Wiles, as we see Arvin Whittaker fall to 9th. He's been passed. Let's see what slipping my mind again here, but Milan down the outside. They're 3 wide down through here. And the McLaren tucks in just behind Milan. That being Milan van der Linden in the Racing Predators Williams. We've got a move back here for P8 as Jackson Altman slips by on the Haas reserve. The Haas reserve being Alexander Lopez. That team being Champ Racing Inc. in the Haas. Champ Racing Inc.'s been through a lot in ARC lately. New ownership. Starting to wan themselves off a bunch of series, but still kicking in ARC Formula 1. Still continuing to show that they are one of the best teams in ARC. Second most successful team in ARC history at this point, actually. And truly impressive what they've done throughout the years in ARC with all the championships and stuff. If you caught us on social media earlier, we honored Dylan Bam's ARC IndyCar Series title that just happened. Dylan Bam, obviously a long mainstay of ARC, and well-deserved IndyCar title on Assetto Corsa. But for Champ Racing Inc., that doesn't matter, as we have a retirement, that being Arvin Whittaker. I believe this is a pit lane retirement for Arvin Whittaker. Not a great start to his ARC Formula 1 career, unfortunately. Our first retirement of the race, and it comes as a pit lane retirement. George Knight, back down to 20th. He's picked up a corner-cutting penalty. 9 seconds behind Alan Edmiston. He's got to keep his head in the game to minimize damage. I don't know if he's picked up more wing damage and had to pit a second time. I didn't catch that on broadcast, but it's entirely possible. It seems odd to me that he would have just fallen behind. But at a track like this, there's plenty of time for a safety car to come out. There's all the time in the world for a safety car to come out, as we know. We're starting to see Xander Wiles' race pace fall off here, as he went from P1 down to P4, and he is losing the top group, even on a medium tire, while the guys ahead of him are also on those mediums. There is no difference in tire quality, only in decision making and how hard they're pushing, how much scrub. We'll take a moment to really diagnose the difference in scrub that these drivers are putting through the wheels. Watch Xander Wiles here ride along with him down this straight. First we'll take a look at Jacob Whitby, who's clinging on in the group, very smooth into the corner. Also seemed very smooth there. Take a look through this corner with Maxime Van Averbeck in here. He's very smooth and committed through these corners. Xander Wiles, meanwhile, seems to be putting a bit more angle into the steering. Not noticeably more, but maybe just asking a little bit too much of the tires, using the fronts too much to scrub off the speed. He's going to continue to lose time. I don't believe this is too much of a steering difference in terms of how quickly he's grinding the steering wheel into the corner. Oh, as we see a pit lane speeding penalty and a retirement from George Knight. It's been a horrible race so far from him, and he's going to be out of this as well with another pit lane retirement. Seemed like a classic give-up retirement, which you hate to see, especially on only lap 7 of a race. A little bit disappointing to see from George Knight, our defending champion. One would expect a little bit more patience out of a defending champion, but I suppose it sometimes doesn't show up as such when you're in the heat of the moment. These top three drivers have been inseparable since the green flag dropped. And that is impressive to me. Something that I absolutely am loving seeing. Obviously, last week in Japan, we had a massive margin of victory between Max and Van Averbeek in that Sauber there for Nuclear Fusion Racing. And you know, if you would have told me this week that we were going to see a Williams and a McLaren closely trailing him, I'd go, are Jackson Altman and Mikey de Jong going to step up that much to be trailing again? And I was not expecting this from two new entries. Of course, it does hurt to not see Mikey de Jong on the grid, with Milan currently running second in Mikey de Jong's car due to what was effectively a miscommunication on whether or not he would be showing up tonight. But that is sometimes how it goes. I think right now, these top three drivers, what they're going to want to have to focus on, maybe not even one, but what they're going to need to focus on, is making sure that they're running the pace of each other so they don't fall out of the fight, and they don't take themselves out of the fight with penalties. Again, they're very easy to get here. These three drivers are pushing very hard. We see the Williams peeking down the inside, just a little reminder. I'm here, I'm right behind you. But I don't think Van der Linden is going to be scaring Van Averbeek off the line that easily. It does seem to me as if that Williams driver has a little bit more pace than he's showing in this current moment, and I'm seeing it in the middles of the corners. He does just seem like he is currently the quicker package. And then you've got to ask, well, is it worth it for Van Averbeek to push because of the DRS zones around here? If he pushes too much harder, he's just taking life out of his car that he's going to give up as soon as they hit a DRS zone anyway. So maybe not worth it for him. As Finn Baker picks up a 3-second penalty down in 14th, that is going to hurt him. Oh, and Xander Wiles into the pit. I thought that was a crash there briefly. Happy to see it wasn't. He's into the pit. Our first taker for a new set of tires. He's going onto a hard. He's going to try and make it 21 laps to the end of this thing. This is a big gamble. But if he comes out on this tire and starts clicking off the laps, maybe he goes on 5-6 laps on this tire before anybody else takes. Any of those medium guys take for a hard tire. It's hard to say. This could put him in a very good chance, or a very good place for a chance at big points if a safety car came out. We have Cameron Lopez up to 6th. He's just completed the pass on Ryan Messer. Now Jackson Altman working on Ryan Messer as well. Ryan Messer getting bullied around those two corners as he drops 2 positions. Cameron Lopez has now got a 4-second gap to the driver ahead of him, the reserve driver of the Aston Martin, who's hanging tight with his teammate, Jamie Cavagnini, who's just sitting there in 4th. Just minding his business, 13 seconds back. An honest day's work for him, as these top 3 drivers continue to go at it. Incredibly impressive stuff. It is noticeably different, the amount of push you see out of these drivers heading into these corners. These top 3 are just absolutely giving it their all. You can see it every lap, lap after lap. We have some wall contact there for the McLaren, who's lost a bit of time off the back of the Williams. That gap now 1.2 seconds, but he's not quite there to go for an overtake. We see Maxime Van Averbeek run a little wide over that curb there. That P1 car, green versus blue versus orange. Very easy to tell them apart in this battle. You love to see the contrast in drivers as well. Love these overhead shots. Get kind of an ability to see where each driver is gaining and losing. Especially on the bridge here, it seems as if the green Sauber of Maxim van Averbeek was slightly less comfortable than Van der Linden in the blue Williams. You'll see there in second, that Williams car for Racing Predators, the Sauber for Nuclear Fusion Racing, and the McLaren for East Coast Racing, three classical teams in ARC. And that is going to hurt. As we see a taker into the pits, it's Maxim van Averbeek. He's the first of the top three group to bite on those pit stops. Do the top two go long? Do they try and take a harder tire compound? Or, sorry, not a harder tire compound. Do they try and take the medium tire compound longer so that their harder one is a little newer? Is that worth it in a race this long? This is the longest race in terms of lap time that we see, aside from, I believe, oh, I could be wrong actually. This used to be the longest race that we see in terms of race time when it was the old version of the circuit, but now with that that under the grandstands double chicane cutout just being down to one chicane, the average speeds have gone up so much that I believe this track is not the longest anymore in terms of race time. That may go to another track. But as we were about to mention there, Xander Wiles down in 10th unfortunately picked up a 3-second penalty. Now he's got the time in the bag to make up that 3 seconds in over 4th or 5th or whatever it works out to being, but it's not looking likely that it would be anything but. Not with a 3-second penalty here. So we see that McLaren hit the wall again. Both are going to go into the pits this time. There is no gambling on tires. Both of these guys see this as an opportunity to blow a chance at the race lead. You can't waste that chance when you're fighting against Maxim van Averbeek. He has the pace. We're going to watch here as Maxim van Averbeek, we ride along with him. Where's he going to come out compared to the Williams and the McLaren? We're going to see right here, obviously he pulls ahead. They're going to have to slow down. There will be a gap there, probably of about 1 second. Both of these guys are going to come out just beside this Alpine. Will the Alpine of Santi Ortiz let them just kind of get away with it? It would be the smart thing to do, and he does. You see Takubi, Maxim van Averbeek up there. It's a 2.2 second lead right now. They are going to have to take some life out of their tires, these two cars that are chasing now. Asphalt Racing Team, currently running 1-2. That's impressive for them, even though it's a pit cycle. I'm sure both of these guys are very happy to be running 1-2 at this current moment. Both on a medium tire by the look of it, they are. Anybody on the hard tire, an alternate? Oh, as we have contact between teammates, we just caught there. Ryan Messer's going to be trying to let his teammate through here, I think. Would be the right thing to do, but does Jackson Altman let him through? We could be seeing teammate games here, as Jackson Altman's not going to be wanting to let him through, knowing that Jacob Whitby is right there and cannot afford. What do we got going on here? This is getting close, getting dicey. We see Jackson Altman head into the pit with minimal time lost there. Altman makes the pit lane entry, no problem. And maybe the more important part, how much time was lost? It went from 2 seconds to 1.1. He's just there on the edge of DRS as Santi Ortiz picks up his 3-second time penalty in 5th place. Cavallini continuing to go long at this race. These top 3 drivers have shown a different level of skill than we typically see in this race. They are truly putting it all on the line, getting within inches of the wall every single corner. We know how difficult this track is. We've seen it in real life. Especially right there. So easy to knock a wheel off. in that braking zone headed to the bridge. We've seen it in FP1 sessions in real life, with drivers far more experienced. And yet we're seeing just inches away as Van der Linden has creeped up into the DRS zone of Maxime Van Averbeek. Things are getting spicy as we reach the halfway point in this race. As all three drivers set their fastest laps of the session. The gap is now 0.8. I'm fully on board with this Williams. I feel as if he is the car to beat in this race. He has driven his way back up to the back of Maxime Van Averbeek. And for a first time arc start, what a story it would be. Something even Maxime Van Averbeek couldn't do himself, as he lost the position in the last lap at the Chinese Grand Prix just 2 weeks ago to George Knight. But the only person who can stop Milan Van der Linden from doing the same thing is now the driver who had it happen to him, Maxime Van Averbeek. There's a storyline brewing. The time just coming down here, little by little, down into 5/10. Creep up as we go down the straight, and then accordion down as we get to the sharper corners each and every time. We'll check in with them next time we get to this straight, where DRS is an option. We see Cameron Lopez, he's back into 7th. He's got a 2-second gap to make up the car ahead, and then a further 11 seconds to make up the Santi Ortiz. Ortiz is on a hard compound tire. I believe he started on that one. I do not think he is on that strategy. Same with Finn Baker. I believe he is into the pits this time. Yes, he is. That'll clear the way for Cameron Lopez as he continues to let it rip around this track. Gap is coming down between these guys at the front once again. The games that are going through their minds at this point: where do I pass? And the question you gotta ask is, where is a good place to pass? Do you go early? Do you try and make a pass and then go for the make a pass early and then go for defending? Or do you try and just sit and wait? We'll compare ERS modes here. So we have a caution on the circuit. Appears to be for, is it Abdul Rahman Al Hazmi? No, it is Caden McDonald, who's gone off the track. He is missing both front end plates. He appears to have spun, and he'll be trying to navigate that back to the pit road entrance without causing further incident. Can be difficult when you're missing that much front end downforce. But he appears to be giving it his all to make sure that he doesn't hinder anybody here. Can be easy to make mistakes. Back up at the front here again as they come down the DRS zone. 68 ERS, but he's only in hot lap mode. He's not seriously going for an overtake. He's just conserving. We've got 62 for Takubi. This was a talking point that we touched on, myself and Matthew Stotts at Japan, in that what we've noticed Takubi does is he cycles through none a lot. There's a very different driving style in terms of ERS usage that we've seen from other drivers. He'll sit in none, and then he will get his ERS reserves all the way up, and then immediately snap into overtake. Dial to hot lap, medium, then none, and he'll sit in none. Then he'll be back on overtake, and as he reaches the end of this straightaway, hot lap, and then he'll be down to medium and then none. The medium is just there. We know he's got this on a dial. He rotates the dial each and every straightaway, turning for the perfect amount of ERS for where he is on the track. Every corner he's in none. Every straight he's overtake, then hot lap, then medium none. And it's such an interesting driving style. So interesting that a driver can be that fast while turning the dial so many times throughout a lap. So we watch Milan van der Linden, who has a much different strategy. The more, we'll call it, common one, as he actually goes for his first overtake attempt of the race. He is going to be going through on Maxime Van Averbeek. He makes the pass stick. He stays ahead through the next sequence of corners, and he's going to begin to pull away here. We'll continue to talk about these overtake differences after we get a barometer on how much he's willing to deploy here. He's sticking in none right now. He's probably going to be back up into, I'd assume, overtake to defend down this straightaway, but we'll have an idea of what he's kind of doing. It's quite a bit different, what Maxime Van Averbeek does compared to what we saw from George Knight. But does Milan van der Linden, our new race leader, what technique does he follow? Is he a medium guy? Does he like to run around with a little bit of deploy, or is he doing the same? He appears to be doing the same thing. None in the apexes of the corners. Then back up to overtake, and then medium. I mean, through here you can't even really get up to overtake. As we see a mistake! We see a mistake! It allows Maxime Van Averbeek to get back to the lead. Just a slight step out. Maybe the tire's overheating just a bit. He asked a little too much. And now he's going to have to get it back. He's got to get his head back into the game here. He's got less overtake. But boy, he's got a lot to make up now. It's It's back to half a second. And that's got to be painful. He's worked all race for that overtake, and he's just not quite managed to hold on to it. It's interesting how quickly things can change. We're starting to see mistakes from the Williams driver. 0.7 of a second now. Things that can't be afforded. This gap between Maxime Van Averbeek, we see Cameron Lopez fall to 7th. He's been battling with our new Aston Martin reserve driver for the entirety of this race. Potential for a 6th place for Cameron Lopez, as the Aston Martin reserve driver, Pink, has not yet submitted their... Oh, as we see a mistake from Cameron Lopez. Does he have damage? Was it just contact? He's missing an end plate. This is horrible for the driver of the Vision 47 Mercedes, who's now going to have to pit and repair that damage. Oh my goodness, what a massive, massive mistake. I was just going to get into how important it is that he continue to dispatch of people, because a 6th place with 8 points is still going to be less damage done than 0. And 0 is looking like it may be likely. Once he pits, repairs the damage, he's going to have to come back out and pick his way back up to P10, who sits right behind him. Only 7 back to 11th, only a further 20 back to 13th. That puts him about in the window, and he has to make up about 20 seconds once he pits to repair that damage to get back into a single points paying position. Then you gotta ask, is it even worth it to do that? I'm gonna say no. I say you hold on at this point, hope for a safety car so you can get in there and repair that wing damage for free. What a shame for Cameron Lopez. This puts actually a lot less pressure on a man who's not feeling any of this race, Maxime Van Averbeek. He came into this race 9 points down from the 2 points leaders, or from the points leader, sorry. Cameron Lopez sitting on 52 points, Van Averbeek on 43, George Knight on 43. George Knight's out of this race. Cameron Lopez may be looking at 2 points maximum in this race, maybe less. It seems as if Ryan Messer is going to be able to pass Cameron Lopez as this thing gets going. Looking more and more likely every time. That's a huge point swing, 25 points. That'll be a 16-point gap to Van Averbeek at the top of the standings. Jackson Altman in 4th in the standings on 31. He's only putting in an 8-point performance in this one. incredibly topsy-turvy race for everybody involved. Xander Wiles up in 4th, but with time penalties, he's in no man's land, minding his own business, just putting in a strong performance. Shame he couldn't hold on to that top group, but this top group is just next level, these guys. Green, blue, or orange, what color you got in this one? You see Unleashed on the back of that Sauber, but we have yet to see these guys fully unleash everything. We've been able to tell by their ERS modes throughout this. They are not all the way in yet. It's still too early. Suppose now is as good a time as ever to take a look at some of the drivers down the field who've had less than stellar races. We'll work our way from the bottom up as we hit 10 to go this time. Aidan McCarthy. Or sorry, Caden McDonald down here in P18 in the CL7RB. Not a great race for him. He's had issues. Replaced end plates on a couple of occasions, couple spins. Not a great race. He'll be looking forward to the end of this thing. Abdul Rahman Al-Hazmi, currently a CPU. We do believe he has lagged out of this session. This would be counted as a mechanical failure, and he would be given 18th position. Alan Edmiston had that really early accident. He's currently battling with Aidan McCarthy. Both of these drivers had accidents early and are currently just fighting amongst themselves. Good to see them still battling, though. There's contact between the two of them. There's always something to fight for. It seems as if Aidan McCarthy realizes that's his fault and is giving the position back. Sportsmanship is something we love to see in racing. It's very important, one of the most important parts of racing, and these two will live to see another day. Sean Rees dialing in the laps here. His first race for... Oh, as we have two cars off. Is it Cameron Lopez? No, the Haas and the Red Bull here. Dylan Boston and the Haas were both stopped up at the corner. Interested to see what's gone on there. If there was any contact. It looks like there definitely was based on the look of both their cars. It seems both of them went into that right-hand corner with the left part of their car in the wall. Have to wonder if one of them got forced off the track. Going to be a bad race for Dylan Boston, who's still looking to pick up some points. He's still currently only on... Or sorry, not Dylan Boston. 6 points he's on. His teammate Alan Edmiston is the one currently on zeros. Both of these guys are going to look to probably pull into the pits this time. They're already out of the pit points, and I do not see that Haas holding on for points with Santi Ortiz and Finn Baker coming. So, yeah, as he hits the wall again, just a miserable race for these two, who then make, okay, another 10-second time penalty for Jonborn, who got hit into the pits by the back of the Red Bull. Maybe some sort of retaliation there, which we would not like to see, as we just got done talking about the sportsmanship demonstrated by Aidan McCarthy. Crazy. A lot has happened here. Move up the grid a little further. Sean Rees, we just were about to talk about him. Him doing another start for Champ Racing Inc. His first as a full-time driver for that team. Finn Baker and Santi Ortiz, back at it. Same speed, trying to get some points, doing what they do. You love to see it for these two. Just putting together a race where they're at least in contention for points. Some early struggles, but sometimes it's like that. Cameron Lopez with an uncharacteristically low position. He continues to lose time to the cars behind and the cars in front. Driver the number 5, past ARC Formula 1 champion, and unfortunately he will not be enjoying this finish if we do not get a safety car. Ryan Messer, P8, another big points day for him. Didn't get points in his first race, but in his second, he didn't finish his first race, was the first car out actually. In his second race, didn't pick up any points, but finished the race. In his third race, though, picked up 6 points. Now he's on for a P8. Another 4 points on the board. He'd be at 10 as it stands. We see another time penalty for Xander Wiles. Jackson Altman in 7th, 6 points, adding to his total of 31 as it stands right now. He'd be looking at staying in P4 as it stands. Same with Jamie Cavagnini as it stands. He'd be looking at staying in P5. Xander Wiles as it stands would be looking at staying in P6. But these top three, as we get back to them once again, nose to tail. Not an inch given, not an inch lost. We ride along with the Williams driver of Milan van der Linden. He's going for an overtake this time. He's going up the inside. They're side by side for the first time into the corner. They're side by side again. Will he leave him the space? He dips in. He thinks better of it. He's going to live to see another day there. This corner's so difficult to not hit that little piece of, I suppose you'd just say concrete in that scenario. As you're heading into the corner, you want to be so close to that wall. These two gear up to lap the Haas and the Red Bull in 15th and 16th at the Singaporean Grand Prix. What an incredible performance so far put on by these three. Alan Edmiston picks up another time penalty. These are all drivers outside of the top 10 with the exception of Xander Wiles, who's sitting on 6 seconds, but has a 22-second advantage over Jamie Cavagnini, and Santi Ortiz, who I believe has 3 seconds, sitting in 10th. He also has an advantage due to the fact that his teammate is carrying the same 3 seconds, so as it stands, our top 10 is not affected by time penalties. A little juke to the left there, just to say, hey, I might make an overtake here. Can I scare you off the line? Can I make you miss your braking point? And you know what? Maxime Van Averbeek did not make that mistake falling for that. The driver of the number 34, Sauber, out front. Question you've got to ask, can Jacob Whitby, who's been sitting here in 3rd, biding his time, he's got a lot of ERS, and he's got a lot of patience, as we've seen. Can he make something happen here? Jackson Altman picks up a 3-second penalty. This will be our first penalty in the top 10 to affect something that would move Ryan Messer up to P7, as Jackson Altman currently still battles his car in this race. We were expecting more of him. We were expecting him to be ahead of both Aston Martins. We were expecting him to be in the top 5. He has not been this race. A lot of race left though. Still no overtake attempt down this straightaway. We've got a caution in Sector 2, just ahead of these leaders. Seems to be for that ghosted Red Bull. Which Red Bull is that? It is Dylan Boston, I believe, who is required by ARC regulations, even as a ghost, to get out of the way. These drivers have to have read the rulebook. He has to get out of the way, even as a ghost. He knows he will have to get out of the way. I'm not impressed with what I'm seeing right now by this Red Bull driver. This could affect the outcome. We have a side-by-side battle into this chicane, and the Williams driver, van der Linden, thinks better of it. This is going to affect a couple of things here. This Red Bull will be pulling along the Sauber in his DRS for a couple of laps here. A couple of attempts he will not have. The driver of the Williams to make that overtake as long as that Red Bull is pulling them. Red Bull currently still fighting away right now. I'm getting the vibe that the rulebook was not read by this Red Bull driver as the blue flags continue to fly here. It's got to be distracting for these top three drivers, but they have shown no cracks yet under any pressure whatsoever. See another 3-second penalty for Caden McDonald. Currently down in P17. We have a caution in Sector 1 for a slow, I believe that to be Williams. It was not. It was, once again, Caden McDonald. His top three drivers still picking away. I think this Red Bull is sadly going to come into play at the end of this thing. They're not pulling a big enough gap to not be considered in play. As Maxime Van Averbeek continues to use the DRS advantage given to him by that Red Bull to defend. And what's going to be on the mind of the Williams as well? I'm going to have to get this done now. Can he make the move this time? He's going to have to be fully in overtake to make it happen, and he's not committed this time with just hot lap. We're watching this driver, Dylan Boston, on a medium tire. He's clearly got pace as he finally unghosts. He should be out of, as the ghosting comes back, and he nearly spins it there. He's pushing very hard. He's pushing so hard that it must be distracting for these leaders. He has to get out of the way as we see a mistake from Van Averbeek. His first mistake all race. He locks up, goes a little wide, but he locks up in such a position that it compromises the line of the driver behind him and becomes a non-issue. These drivers up ahead must get out of the way. We've got 6 cars under a blanket here as we have another spin for Caden McDonald in P18. He'll be trying to get it going again. I think he has missed the corner that time. This car is not treating him well, and he is not treating the car well. We see these 3 drivers continue to do war. Battles being waged. The Williams right on the tail of the Sauber this time. He's gonna have to try and make it work. He can't make it work. Not with that DRS toe. He's realizing time is slipping away here. These 2 cars ahead are contributing to an easier defense for the Sauber as there's slight contact made there. Just slightly knocking the Sauber off his preferred line. Things are going to get dicey here. The Williams will be getting desperate. Milan van der Linden getting desperate, getting hit from behind by Jacob Whitby. Burning overtake this time to catch the Sauber driver, who's now up to 60 on his ERS. They are well out at this point, I believe, of ERS range. If they are not, they're back in ERS range once more. The Haas holding up the Red Bull, who's not ghosted for him, as they continue to get ERS. This Williams is fully out of ERS. He tried too hard to make that happen. Takubi, he's at 60 at ERS. We're on the final lap of the race, and I do not think this Williams has anything to give here. These 2 drivers up ahead have got to move out of the way as lapped cars. They're fighting each other. They're ignoring blue flags. They're literally inside the cars around them. This is not fair racing for those leaders. We're now having to battle with the fact that they cannot see at times due to the ghosting. They must get out of the way. Jacob Whitby doing battle with the car you cannot see up ahead of him. The blue Williams trying to eke anything he can out of this as these drivers nose to tail have a battle that unfortunately has been ended by lapped cars. So little between them all race. Shame to see it end like this with drivers that should not have been involved in this battle. But I'm sure it will not bother Maxime Van Averbeek, who is going to cross the start-finish line to fireworks blasting into the sky. His second career victory and second in a row. He will be your new points leader and your #1 championship contender going into the rest of the season. Xander Wiles crossing the line, doing a dance, as we would call that. P4. Long way back to P5. 24 seconds from P4. What a gap that has been given here. As we see Ryan Messer looking for his career best finish. He's looking for P5. He's going to be P6. He's gonna cross the start-finish line here with an incredible P6 finish. That's 8 points in his bank. Pink, the reserve driver who we are yet to receive a name from. This could be 6 points in their bank, or if they do not submit a name, all the drivers behind, including down to Finn Baker, who crosses in 10th, would be bumped up into, or crosses in 11th, would be bumped up to a points-paying position. Jackson Altman, 6 points in the bank. Santi Ortiz, a further, or sorry, Jackson Altman 4. Santi Ortiz, a further 2 to his total of 6. Cameron Lopez, sadly, only getting 1 point to his current total of 52. That will put him back into second in the current championship standings. An incredible, tight, an incredibly tight margin being just completely destroyed. Going from up by 9 to down by 16. But, as we know, as we see swings that big, a lot can happen. Next week we head to Monaco, an even tighter track. We could see more safety cars. We could see red flags. We could see a train. We could see crazy two-wide racing. I must say, I am very happy for Maxime Van Averbeek. I am less impressed by the blue flag shenanigans of the Red Bull driven by Dylan Boston and the Haas, which I believe was driven by not Sean Reese, but the one behind Sean Reese. I can't remember the name of. I can grab that quickly though, just right here as we take a look at this stuff. Export the session results. Sure wish I could save the replays as the race commentator here, but unfortunately not possible. Yeah, the other Haas being... maybe that was Sean Reese, actually. I'm not sure. I believe it was, but I'm not sure. Just some very, some poor blue flag ignorance at the end of that, but I do feel happy for the winner. Maxime Van Averbeek picks up his second career win. Defends against a driver getting their first career win in their first career start, the same as George Knight did to Maxime Van Averbeek just 2 weeks ago in China. And Jacob Whitby with a solid P3 finish. From here, we'll get into our interviews as we ask our drivers who were on the podium. Maxime Van Averbeek. Our second driver, Van der Linden, And our third place driver, Jacob Whitby, to join the podium, or join the waiting room, I should say. And as well, we will be getting getting an interview, hopefully, from Cameron Lopez, driver of the Vision 47 10th place finishing order, as we wait for interviews. Firstly, we'll have Cameron Lopez here, our P10 finisher. I do have a question for you in one moment.
Yep.
But firstly, I'm trying to get everybody in these waiting rooms since I'm all by myself tonight.
Cool. No stats?
No stats tonight. My co-commentator's not here. It's just been the AJ Knickel show. But it's been
You
a
would
very...
have wanted to watch my race then.
Yeah, no, I've been watching. I watched your race. That's why I got you in here. I wanted to ask, where did it unravel for you? P10 finish. Where did it all go wrong?
My game, I lagged out during quali, and then when I joined back, it didn't let me take control of my car. So, had to retire, start last, and then during the race, I never had experienced it before, but the rear just went on corner exit out of turn 1, 2, 3, 4, out of turn 7, I think it is. I wasn't even on the throttle, corner exit, the rear just snapped, I smashed the wall.
We were riding along with you briefly during that, and we saw the accident. It did look strange, and we were definitely surprised by the accident, not like you to just kind of lose the rear. With that said, how does this affect your mindset now going into the further races this season? Obviously, this has created a big point swing for you. You took 1 point home compared to Van Averbeck's 25. This has created a 16-point deficit for you after being up by 9 before this race. Where does this put you going into the rest of the championship?
Same as all the other races. I'm going to take it race by race. Mindset stays the same. Still committed to winning. See how it goes.
Absolutely. We love to hear it. Stay committed, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, thank you, man.
No problem. Now we'll talk to our next newcomer, Milan van der Linden, reserving for the Racing Predators team. Last minute call up for the Williams driver. How was that race for you?
It was it was going pretty well. Qualified P2, which is surprised me a little bit. And then the race went pretty well, pretty good as well. I lost the position to Techubi at the start, but I knew my starts weren't gonna be that great. I just kept with him the whole race, and then shame because of the ghost back markers lost a couple of laps.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That was
it's just
a
bit of bad luck.
That was my next question. Was obviously as the person who's created the rulebook, I know the rulebook and I know what it says about cars even being ghosted, about having to let people by. So I was gonna ask as the follow-up question, how frustrating was it for you, I suppose, being in that position, seeing those lappers coming up and knowing that for each and every lap they were ahead of Maxime Van Averbeck in the Sauber, that you were losing a lap and an opportunity that he was getting DRS each of those times?
Yeah, we I already saw 2 cars battling ahead, like at lap 24 for 25 or something. I already saw them, so I would just wanted to get past I don't know, Maxim. I wanted to go as fast as possible ahead of him, and then but then he knew it as well, and he just kept me kept me behind him, which is fair play to him. It's good. It was good racing. It's just the final laps sucked a little bit that they didn't let us pass. But that's
Yeah, as I was
Well,
commentating it, I was kind of noticing how like it was frustrating me putting myself in the driver's seat there, trying to figure out why they weren't getting out of the way. Incredibly
yeah.
frustrating.
A few corners in the last 2 laps, I was literally within the car, so I couldn't see where I was going.
Yeah, and
Luckily, I have the racing line assist on, so I can see like the red bars if I want to brake. But that's just really annoying. I overshoot the corner a lot of the times, which at the end of the lap, lap 30, I believe, I was already 7 tenths behind Maxim, which didn't help my final lap either. I also thought the final lap was lap 30, so I was also running out of ERS at that point.
yeah, no, it's ERS is a big part of these races for sure. We took a look into how each driver was kind of using their ERS. We're noticing that the lead driver had their ERS on a dial. We could tell each time the function was dialing through each setting immediately out of a corner. It would go overtake, and then 3/4
Yeah,
down the straightaway, hot lap, medium, none into the corner, and it would just rotate through those four at exactly that pattern every single time. So we learned that about the Sauber, and then we kind of compared it to each driver, also comparing steering wheel inputs between Xander Wiles, who I've got lined up for the next interview here, and some other drivers, trying to figure out for him where the tire wear went wrong throughout that
yeah,
race. But yeah, no, it was very exciting having the top three under a blanket like that, and I was very
yeah,
happy to have a new person who was popped in last minute have such a massive shot at a victory. And I
yeah.
hope to see you in many races to come. Given that, I think you have a very good shot at if not a title, since you've missed the first three races, at least top two. So I will definitely hope to see you back next week.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah,
Anyway, I will move on to the next interviewee. I was very
yes.
appreciative to have you here. Have a good evening, man.
Yeah, have a good evening yourself. Yeah.
See ya. And for our third and final interview of the night, we've got Xander Wiles here, our pole sitter, back after missing two races, the Chinese Grand Prix and the Japanese Grand Prix. He came away with a P2 finish in Australia for his
Uh,
18 points
so
on the season. This race, only a P4. Still not a bad result for him,
I'm
but
so happy with that result.
yeah, but that's what I was going to
Okay,
ask. But I'm sure, given the pace of the top three and the gap you put to the drivers behind you, you've got to be impressed with that, right?
now let me tell you a story. Singapore is one of my worst tracks. Yesterday, I did a short quali session. I set a 26.5 final session. These past 2 days, I've been grinding quali. I've done about 17 short quali sessions today, and I set a personal best lap on my final lap. I
That
was so happy with that lap.
that was
I
we weren't riding along with you, but we were riding along with the Williams driver that we just interviewed.
Oh yeah, Milan.
Yeah, Milan van der
Yeah.
Linden, and riding along with him, I was able to tell how quickly his lap was going. I was riding along, I was going, this is going to be the lap. Like, this lap is incredible. And then he got pole with that. And then, or provisional pole, I should say. He got provisional pole with that. And then you came along a couple moments later and took pole. And I was like, how did he make that up? That must have been a phenomenal lap. And I wish I was on board for it because, like, the Williams lap looked incredible. Like, there was not much more on the table, and yet you beat it. So
Yeah, uh, like whatever, like 30 minutes before the race or something, I messaged Milan. I go, "Are you any good at Singapore? If so, do you want to do a race?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm absolutely shit at quali, but I'm amazing in the race." So I invited him, and then there's like 300s between us. I mean, I hate to admit it, but Milan is definitely better than me. Um,
He,
like
I was gonna say
he's
he
a
definitely.
race merchant. Quali is not his strong suit.
I was gonna say he
He is.
definitely showed that he has the pace today for sure. I was very happy to see his pace.
Yeah, I was running the most insane quali setup ever, so I knew I was gonna have no pace in the race, and I did no race practice. And there's someone else in AMS called Trappy who who was DMing Tetraby about his strategy, and this guy said that he pits lap 9 every time. I pit lap 9, and Tetraby doesn't come in, and I'm like, what the fuck? He literally said to Traffy that he pits lap 9 every time, and then he didn't pit lap 9. I was very annoyed about that.
Well, regardless, it seems like it worked out for you. You got the nice P4 finish out of it. 12 points added to your tally. You'll be up to 40 now, I believe. If I'm no, sorry, 30. So with 30 points, that should put you a solid P5, I believe. P5, P6. You should be up in there. That puts you in a nice position for the rest of the season. So my next question is, obviously we know you're in a time trial setup, so I'm not even going to ask about where it went wrong in the race because we know the tire wear is exactly where. Um, the question I'm going to
No,
ask is, being in the position you're in now, you missed the last 2 races. You came back, you finished 4th. You already have a podium this season. My question is, with 13 races left this season, what is your goal? What ultimately, like, where are you pushing to push yourself to in the championship? How many wins are you trying to get? What do you think what do you think your ultimate outcome is this season?
well, I mean, I'm in this league to have fun. I don't really care about the championship, to be honest. Like, I invited Milan to the league, who's my friend and is better than me. Like, I just invited him to have fun, like, even though he's gonna beat me. I'm literally just here to have fun. If I win races, that's cool. If I don't, I don't really care. I just The only reason I planned on not racing the rest of the season is because Australia was not a fun race.
No, I
That was
totally understand that. There were moments of
that was
Australia that seemed
probably
unenjoyable for us.
the least fun league race I've done in months. Australia was, which is why I debated not racing the rest of the season. And then my game broke when Japan was happening, and I had to uninstall and reinstall it, and it didn't reinstall in time, so I couldn't do
Ah.
Japan. Monaco, I'm all right at. I mean, not as good as Asteroid. He'll easily win that race, probably.
I'm really excited for Monaco. With the grid we just got tonight, 20 cars on the grid, hoping we can carry that momentum through to Monaco because there's nothing better than a fully packed Monaco Grand Prix. Seeing the qualifying sessions, seeing how quick people are to try and make overtakes when they're not always possible. It's just it's the type of controlled chaos that I like to see in a league race.
Yeah.
It's a different type of chaos. The real life one, you're maybe not going into it looking for anything crazy, but I do enjoy the Monaco Grand Prix in a league racing setting because there are moves made that you may not be able to make in real life, and that I enjoy. Um, with that said, you still haven't won your first career win, and we know that you have the pace in you. Our next tracks are Monaco, Spain, Silverstone, the Red Bull Ring, Spa, Zandvoort, Italy, Portugal, and then we get into the North American swing and UAE and all that stuff. So, of all the upcoming tracks that are coming up, what track are you calling your shot at to get that first win?
Um. Well, Monaco Asteroid is gonna win. Spain, Tetraby will probably win. I'm not too good at Spain, and Tetraby has beaten both me and Asteroid there before. Well, actually, in another league, SKG, Milan beat Tetraby at Spain, so he might be on for a win there again if he keeps that same pace and if he keeps racing here. He was not happy about how late at night the race time is, so I'm not sure if he'll keep racing. Um, Silverstone, I'm not too great at, but I'm not sure on the pace of other people. Austria is probably my best chance. Um, Considering, well, I've beaten Tetraby there before on pens. Like we all finished within uh like 5/10 of each other, and then because he like drove me off the track at one point, I got him a 5 second post race. So I've beaten him technically, not on track, but I've beaten him post pens there before, and Austria is probably the track I have the best pace at out of all the next ones.
So then there we go. Austria, he's called his shot. That's where the first
Well,
race win happens for the Ferrari
uh,
driver.
that's where I have the best chance. I'm not saying I'll win it. I'm saying
Hey, we
that's why I
gotta
have the
we
best
gotta look
chance.
out for it. It's gonna come one of these days. It's
If
it,
I grind Austria as hard as I grinded Singapore the past 2 days, it could
it's
probably happen.
it's
But
coming. I feel it for you for sure.
God, I'm never driving this track again. I hate it so much.
Anyway,
And
we should wrap up these interviews, get this broadcast down. It's been good talking to you, Xander. Good race.
yeah, yeah, you too. See ya.
See ya. And as we wind down the interview phase of this fourth race of the 2025 ARC Formula One World Championship, we are going to take a moment to thank our sponsors. Of course, Dive Bomb Media. Visit dive-bomb.com to view motorsports stories for every single type of racing you can possibly imagine. That being Formula One, IMSA, WEC, MotoGP, NASCAR, anything, rallycross, just you if it's out there, Extreme E, hydrogen cars, just if it's out there, go explore it. They have some awesome opinions. It's basically how back in the old days you'd read up a nice article on a car forum, you'd read some opinions. It's like that, but it's in a nice way that all of it is professionally done. It's incredible to watch or incredible to listen to. They produce some stuff too. Go follow them on social media. Just check them out. They're also related to us, as you can tell by the logos. So, go check them out. That's all I have to say there. As for the rest of our sponsors, Sim League Pro, go check them out if you want to host your own league with the ease of not having to set up a million spreadsheets. All you got to do is go in, type in the names of your drivers, set up your racing, set up the game you want to race your series on, set up the tracks, and then all you got to do is drag and drop. There's your league. Counts all the points for you. It's that simple. Really is the simplest tool I've ever used as a league owner, and I cannot recommend it enough. simleaguepro.com for that one. As for the rest of our sponsors, the Racing Rats, shout out to them, the premier free mod makers on Assetto Corsa. They constantly put out quality mods. Tomorrow you'll see on our channel, as broadcasted, once more the ARC GT World Challenge series with GT3 cars, those mods being made by the guys at the Racing Rats. Quality mods, GT3s, hypercars, formula cars, GT4s, GTEs, sports cars of all stuff. They even have a Ratox kart. All you got to do is head over to their Discord server, download it for free, or you can donate some money to them and become a member of the Racing Rats, donate to their Patreon and get early access for any of those items. And if you liked our stream today and you want to contribute to making sure that in the future we have even more incredible quality streams, make sure I can get a co-commentator from time to time when Stotts can't make it, head down to our Discord server, and at the very top of the server you will see a little link that says donate to our league. You can donate any amount. It's a PayPal link. All you gotta do is click that button, send us a couple dollars, and it helps us put more and more content out into the world, helps us get full fields like tonight, and helps us put together some incredible racing on a weekly basis. With that said, that's going to do it for our broadcast tonight. You'll see another broadcast tomorrow of the ARC GT World Challenge, as I have said before. This has been AJ Knickel broadcasting the 4th round of the ARC Formula 1 World Championship at Singapore, and we will see you next week from Monaco. Goodbye.